Bad for you guys. Okay, so what I want to do for this live is that a little while back I posted a question on Instagram, and I was asking about people being able to ask any kind of questions. The reason why I like doing it on Instagram is because people might want to be able to ask a question, but they want to do it anonymously, not necessarily anonymously to me, but anonymously to like the public because they're curious about a topic, but they don't want to necessarily make it a public discussion. So I posted on Instagram just kind of like a question thing to have people send in questions to be able to just be able to ask whatever they want. So we did get quite a massive chunk of questions to be able to come in. Obviously, as we're going through this live stream, if you have questions, feel free to post them in the comment section. I'll hopefully be able to see it in time. Again, on my end, I see that for you guys, it's showing that there's no lag. On my end, there's quite a lag. So as long as you guys are seeing it fine, that's obviously the best. So yeah, if I just keep referencing to the chat, it might be quite a gap between the time that I see it and the time that you actually hear my response. What I'll do for now is I'll put my one finger up, and then the next time you see my finger up is the time that I saw my finger up again. So let's see, between the time you just saw that till the next time I put my finger up, I'm going to show you how long that lag is to see what that looks like, because I'm not sure how long that is. There you go. That was the second finger up. So I'm not sure how many seconds that was. But that's the current lag I'm dealing with. But either way, what we're going to go through is I'm going to start going through some questions I'm seeing on the chat, and then some of the questions that were sent in, and we'll just have a good discussion. Gamer Dude just asked, what is your favorite weapon for concealed carry? Currently, it's an interesting question because right now I'm in like the transitioning phase of being able to pick a new firearm for concealed carry. My current dependable concealed carry firearm is the Glock 19. I just have been training on that platform a lot and I use it a lot, so I'm very comfortable with that platform. So that's generally the one I'm going to be carrying. However, what I've been trying to train more of is the Glock 48, which is the exact same thing as the Glock 19, just thinner. Now, living in a restricted state like California or in a restricted state like New Jersey, where I'm currently living, having a Glock 48 or a Glock 19 is exactly the same thing because we're limited to the 10 round capacity anyway. So if we're using 10 round capacity, I might as well have it in a thinner platform. That's the limit of what I'm able to do. Now I know California has the California handgun roster, which means that you're not able to get a Glock 48 because suddenly anything over Gen 3 is more deadly than previous models, which is ridiculous. So that's going to be something that if you're able to do it, I would prefer the Glock 48. Now, just today, I actually went back to the range to re-zero it because I realized that the mounting setup that I was using was not correct. So currently, although I want to be able to use the Glock 48 as my primary use, it is not my current use because I'm not yet comfortable and relying on it enough where I would like depend my life on it. So that's currently what I'm dealing with in regards to concealed carry. Now, someone asked about a bulletproof talus or a bulletproof tzitzis, which is what we wear day to day. I actually have looked into it. It was something that has been discussed a lot. The issue that runs into it is, first of all, the thickness. Second of all, although it is ballistic, if you're going to get impacted with that, it's going to either still penetrate your body, you'll live, but it'll be a horrible thing to actually get hit by. Jive Turkey. First time, nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Hoodlum's Gunbench, thank you for joining us. Okay, so let's go through some of the questions that actually came in that I thought were actually very interesting and I thought are worthwhile to be able to speak about. So the first question was in regards to gear. They said, what's your, let me see if I have the name of the people who sent it in so I can at least give credit where credit's due. I don't have this person's name. I apologize. They don't have it listed. So the first question was, what's your most favorite outside the waistband holster? Currently, the holster that I've been using for outside the waistband use is from A&R Design. I actually made a video on it recently. It's a very, very simplistic holster, very thin, very minimalistic, especially for the Glock 48, which is what the holster I chose is the one I got for. It works really, really nicely. Again, very simplistic. And for outside the waistband use and being able to have a good setup, it really works well. There were a few companies I used in the past, which over, I guess, 2020, a lot of companies went into being able to manufacture holsters. And it seems that a lot of them also, unfortunately, just failed to keep up the business, which is sad. But yeah, that's going to be currently my outside the waistband choice. I have several Shadow systems. I love them and they don't make 45s. A little disappointed. What are your thoughts? Shadow down systems or shadow systems? If it's shadow down systems, I don't know, honestly, if I'm familiar. I know Shadow Systems makes pretty nice guns. They're, I think, not fully, but partially have been popularized by Warrior Poet Society. I believe he made some kind of collaboration or a Warrior Poet Society version, which is I think where a huge popularity spike came from Shadow Systems. I think they're great guns. Now the reality is, although some people might not really want to hear this, is that since the Glock patent of the Gen 3 Glocks have come out, every company is making their own version of the Glock 19. So there are a lot of companies that make really great options when it comes to being able to have a Glock 19 platform. So it's almost difficult to mess up simply because the patents are available, so you can replicate it exactly the same way. Justin, how you doing, bro? Thank you for joining. Nice to see you. So yeah, that's in regards to that. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free. Someone else wrote, do we have any online courses? I'm going to assume that's a little bit of a joke just because I started posting more about the online courses that I have. But it is actually very valuable, especially for a lot of you guys watching. You guys are people who have a little bit more background in firearms. So for people who don't have any background or are interested in getting involved, I recommend it just because I put it together because I recommend it. But the Firearms 101 class, if you go to my regular website, there's a section that will connect you to the online training website. And one of the classes is called Firearms 101, and it covers through all the basics of firearms, safety, and whatever. If you just got a gun for the first time, very valuable to learn about. If you just got a pistol for the first time, there's a dedicated tactical pistol. If you just got a rifle, dedicated tactical rifle. Both are very interesting, and obviously I do recommend it. If I can, should I get a handgun under 21 and open carry using the legal loopholes in Pennsylvania, or wait risking changes of gun laws? If you're able to do it and you know it's legal, here's the issue with loopholes. The issue with loopholes is you can't assume every law enforcement officer knows that. And what ultimately happens is that you'll do it and it's 100% legal, and then you get detained and arrested temporarily until you could prove it otherwise. It's unfortunately one of those cases where it might be considered guilty until proven innocent. So obviously, I would love the fact you're able to carry. Also, if the only option is to be able to open carry, that worries me a little bit just because obviously there are risks in regards to open carry. So just be aware of that. Positive reactions. Thank you for joining. Nice to see you. So in regards to legalities, I would just say be a little bit careful about that because you do want to be careful. In regards to other gear questions that came in, someone asked about if I'm still using Core Essentials belts. When I posted that video, I was surprised a little bit from the feedback. Some people really don't like Core Essentials. But for me, again, just my personal experience has been very positive. They literally just sent me their new line of belts that just came out. I'm going to be doing a video on it within the next few weeks to show you guys. I really, really do like their belts and they work very nicely for me. So I am still using it. What I really do like technology-wise that they've advanced on is their battle belt system. It's really, again, in my opinion, a very revolutionary design. So being able to have like their trackline system that clicks in place really gives you like a solid baseline. I don't get any payment from them to be able to say that. I just really, really like their setups. Someone asked, how's your Z-Bolt light working for you? So if you guys know, I have the Blazer. I believe the company's name is Blazer. And they make unless the company name is Z-Bolt and they make the Blazer. Really, really cool brand. They're also very innovative. Their flashlights are incredible, especially their new system. I just made a video on it for their diffusers. Really, really cool. But what that light is being able to have, if you have an LPVO or a scope, being able to see really far, that light the hotspot is nuts on that setup. So if you're looking for a light that does kind of both, it's more, in my opinion, more of a mid to long range thing. There are better options for just close range use, but for any kind of battle rifle where you're not really sure the engagement distances you're going to be dealing with, it's a really, really incredible light. Looking at questions here. If you want to talk politics in the chat, you're allowed to talk politics in the chat. I might not respond, just depending on what the question is going to be. But you can feel free to ask any political questions you want. Next year for a video, 8 pieces of gun gear you recommend for Hanukkah. I will make that video anytime because there's always gear you can recommend. did you end up having to zero with your optic? I didn't. What Hoodlum Gunbench is asking is that the Z-Bolt optic, it has such a strong hotspot that at a certain distance, it almost would be like you need to zero the beam because it's so strong. So far for the engagement distances that I've dealt with, like around 100 yards, I don't currently have that much further that I'm always able to test. I didn't need to do a zero for it. It did seem pretty right on. So as of right now, I didn't have that as an issue. Who do you want to collaborate in the gun world? In the gun world, that's a good question. I'm not sure if there's someone particular. Like, there's a lot of cool guys out there. This may be a controversial topic. However, there are certain instructors or certain guys who make videos that are really, really knowledgeable dudes. But for me personally, if a person has a very intense ego, it makes me hard to be able to learn from them just because I feel like humility is a very valuable trait. So there are some guys that I think are just brilliant dudes. But with that also comes an ego, which it narrows the pool of the really nice guys out there. Obviously, I really, really like, oh my God, oh man, what is his? Pat, I think his name, Pat Mack on YouTube. Really, really smart guy, very like intense dude, but I think he's a very smart guy. I don't find him to be, he does comical ego, not serious ego. So what that means is that I feel like he's a genuine human being. That's a really cool dude. Yeah, there's also like Warrior Poet Society. I think he's a genuine guy. I think he's a nice dude. He's also a cool guy to be able to speak with. There's not like a huge list of guys. Aaron Cowan, I think, is also a very smart dude who I think would be really cool. I've been trying to go to his classes for such a long time, but I'm pretty sure he only ever offers classes on Saturdays, or there may be 2 classes that end up Saturday and Sunday. And since I'm a religious Jew, we're not able to train on Saturday, so that makes it complicated. So someone actually asked, this might be a way off for a lot of people, what gun does the Lubavitcher Rebbe carry? So there's a leader of the Lubavitch Chabad movement, which is the sect of Judaism I'm part of. He didn't carry a firearm. There actually was a rabbi previously, a part of the Lubavitch chain, that did actually conceal carry. That's actually something you should be aware of. What do you think the age should be to purchase a firearm legally? Okay, so I'm just going to give my input here. I don't think it's a bad input. I do believe 18 is fair, just because if it's going to be about being able to join the military, if you're able to join the military, you should also be able to legally own a firearm. Because I know that there's some states that they'll say like 21 for this and 18 for this, which is ridiculous. Because if you're allowing someone at the age of 18 to be able to join the military, they should also be allowed to be able to purchase a firearm at that point. You'd like to see me go on the Art of War podcast. If I remember correctly, I could be very wrong. I think it's military specific. I could be wrong. But I think it's military specific. If it's military specific, I wouldn't really fit in to that conversation. Do you know any Israeli instructors who can host a class with? Who you can host a class? So in the U.S., it's harder just because that's a somewhat debated, it's a debated training method. Obviously, like if you're in the U.S., people are going to prefer the American perspective on firearms training and whatever. I don't know of anyone's personally. I believe there's probably a few in New York. To be fair, I know of one guy I think who's in New York, and I forgot his name honestly, but I know he does training, and I wonder where it's actually located. I'm not exactly sure actually. Yeah, so Justin just said, and I agree with it. If you're old enough to enlist, vote, or pay taxes, you're old enough to exercise your rights, and I agree with that. What do you think the age should be to purchase firearms legally for civilians? So I still agree with the same points. Again, maybe I'm wrong about this. I do feel like the age 18 is a fair age in regards to like legal perspective, because also am I about to get like really political here? I don't know. Don't hate me. I'm just gonna give my input. I feel like these days we're seeing that since there's less, not enforcement, but less, is it parental guidance from a lot of parents these days? The mentality of younger guys seem to be less mature. So it seems that the 18-year-old age gap would be fair, just because even if it was, let's say, 16, obviously there are plenty of 16-year-olds that might be very mature and ready to carry a gun or just be able to purchase a gun. But being able to it worries me that you obviously want to be responsible gun owners. Now, here's the reality. I think that any age you should be able to legally be able to purchase because you're an American and that should be your right. And also, it's not that you shouldn't need permission to be able to do so. In regards to carrying it, again, it may not necessarily be about age, but it's going to be more about proper training proficiency that we feel like would be fair to know that a person's ready to do that. Just because, again, it's not going to be about age or mentality. It's about being able to be proficient and responsible enough to be able to make a decision to end someone's life. Like, God forbid we ever want to be in that kind of situation, but that's really what it is. Let me know if that makes sense. I don't know if I just ranted. If I served in the Israeli Defense Forces, can I still own guns? I would like to own an M16. If you're talking about in America, if you're over the age of 18, that's totally fine. I know in Israel, the legalities are very different. I'm not from Israel, and I don't know the laws of Israel well. But to my understanding, if you served in the military, you should be able to own a firearm. I just don't know the legalities in regards to that being able to do. Could you list out all the hardest courses you've been to and the credentials you have? In regards to the hardest course I've been to, I don't think there was ones that are ever really, really hard. They were more informative. That's really the way you would determine a class. It's not really by how difficult it is. It's more about how much information you gain from that course. Personally, I don't know if this is a controversial person or not. For me personally, I had a very, very, very positive experiences, and I would return to Tactical Response. I had very, very good experiences there, and they have really amazing training. The hardest training I received from them, and it was also the most informative, but really terrifying, was their low-light building clearing course. It was absolutely an eye-opening experience because when you take a simunitions course, which is simulated ammunition, what that is you realizing how fast you're able to die in the real world. So what the course was is that the lights are completely off, so all you have is your everyday carry light or the light on your firearm, and they put you into a dark mini structure of a building, and what you're doing is you're going into that building knowing someone's hunting you. That's a scary word, hunting. And you have to clear a building with no lights, and every time you turn your light on, there's the risk of them knowing where you are now. Every sound you make, every movement you make is now able to be very clearly heard. It's absolutely terrifying. And it was such a great experience to be able to know, because you now know when you're clearing your own house, or if you're clearing a place that you feel might be a risk, your focus is so much higher because you realize it's really scary. It's really, really scary. And if you go to a training class and don't leave realizing how scary it could be, it doesn't mean you're not prepared. It doesn't mean you're not going to train more. It doesn't mean you're not going to be more proficient. But if you don't come to the realization of how fast things are able to happen, then I don't feel like you gained enough from that course. It was an incredible course. It was terrifying, but it really opened my eyes to being able to see that, which was really cool. Hello from South Korea. Hello. Nice to see you, bro. Thank you for joining. Let's go through some other questions because I don't see more. Will you be planning on seeing John Wick 4? Oh my God, I'm going to get a lot of hate because I didn't see the first 3 and I don't know if that's really bad. But I'm sorry. I should. I know I should. Everyone's saying I should. I have not. Any bipod recommendations? Bipod, I think I'm currently using really good bipods are made by Atlas. The only con to using an Atlas bipod is that everything is manually done. So there's buttons to be able to actuate the locking mechanism. If you're going to use even a basic one, is it called Harris? The Harris bipods are great because they're spring loaded. And if you're just kind of having general use, I think they work really great. No issues with them. If you're looking for more of an intense use bipod, I think Atlas is undefeated in the market when it comes to being able to use it. So that's probably what I'd recommend. Opinions on pepper spray. Oh, do I have opinions on pepper spray? Okay. Recently, every single person and their mother has sent me a link to this company. Oh my God, did I forget the name of the company? They've been around. They make a gun that fires pepper spray balls, and they're asking me my opinion on it. I really don't recommend it. I'm not trying to crush a company. I'm not saying their product doesn't work. What I would say is this. The pepper spray ball technology, what it does is you're using a projectile, which means you're aiming as if it's a firearm, so it means your aim has to be correct. The impact has to be in a place where the ball will be able to pop to be able to be used effectively. The vapor or powder that they're using then also has to be able to get into their nose for it to then be an effective thing. The risk of carrying something that may or may not look like a firearm that's non-lethal for the point of being able to use it as a non-lethal option is not ideal. Using a standard fog pepper spray gives you a much higher likeliness of being able to impact what you want to be able to impact. It's more likely they'll be able to breathe it in and it'll cause a physical effect on them. So I would much more highly recommend being able to use a fog pepper spray over those pepper spray guns that use CO2 or whatever it might be. Do you have a flashlight on your EDC gun on Shabbos? Do I have a flashlight on my CD? Yes, I do. Also, somewhat of a debated point. I set up my firearm. Actually, I'm going to give credit over here to Hoodlum's Gun Bench, who's on the chat right now, I believe. He said, he asked me a question about being able to carry firearms on Shabbos, because on Shabbos, which is like the seventh day of the week, is our holy day. We're not allowed to use any electronics. We're not allowed to use anything. There's a lot of laws in regards to what we're allowed to do on the Sabbath, right? So one of the things that we're technically not allowed to do is touch a firearm. However, since it's a self-defense and protective weapon, there are exceptions to that rule. Not always, but there are exceptions to that rule. Now, on top of that, there's also exceptions to be able to add a flashlight and a red dot on it, because those are also technically things that we're not allowed to use because they're electronic. But again, since it's a life-saving device, there are rules that would make you allowed to be able to use that. I do not use the shake awake option. I leave my optic on, just because also I prefer to always have my optic on, because anyways, when you're walking, it's constantly either activating or not activating. So I just leave it on anyway, and I don't want, it just works for me. Someone just wrote that Houston Jones, really cool channel by the way, has a video where he got shot by Kentucky Ballistics, I'm assuming with the pepper spray balls, and they didn't work really well, and I would agree. I would say that I probably wouldn't rely on them. So yeah, on my carry gun that I would use on the Sabbath, it does have a light and it does have an optic, because I want to be as proficient as possible when it comes to being able to use it, if God forbid I would ever need to use it. There's another question over here. I'm going to just go through some of the questions. How do you make sure that new gun guys get good information instead of ending up as FUDs or tactical cool goon nerds? So being able to get good information is very important. I know recently there's been a lot of videos going around of instructors that you realize were this is really bad training. You have to be very, very careful. Obviously, there's always going to be those people. So you have to be, it's always important to vet. And oh my God, again, I feel like I'm going to get hate for this, but just because a person has law enforcement or military background doesn't mean that they're a good instructor. Now, let's say they were a SEAL Team 6. They were the best trained operative in the entire world. Hear me out. There's also a difference between being a very skilled operative or just, we'll use the terminology of a scientist, because it's the same applies to the gun world. If a person is a brilliant scientist, to be able to pass on that knowledge to a student is a skill set. Teaching is a skill set. So there's not only the value of being very knowledgeable in a field, but being able to teach it to a student is also very valuable. So there's two things here. There's, just because a person was in the military law enforcement doesn't necessarily mean that they're knowledgeable enough in that field. And unfortunately, we have law enforcement statistics to prove that. I'm not saying everyone, I'm just saying, technically speaking, same thing with the military. The other aspect is, even if they're the most talented person in the world, doesn't mean that they're able to give over a point properly well enough where a student is able to adapt and learn from it. So there's kind of two aspects of that. If that makes sense, let me know if I'm dealing with it. What's the most common mistakes you see? I'm assuming just from firearms training, things like that. Generally speaking, I find it very common where people, what I'm noticing recently, because of the concealed carry abilities in a lot of states, what I see people doing is that they're going to just pick a gun. They're not going to train with it or try it. They're just going to pick a gun and stick with it. The problem with that is if you're a smaller framed person, as an example, and you get, let's say, a 45 that's like a single stack and your pinky is hanging off the gun, the ability to shoot that effectively and be able to build your skill is very difficult, because the recoil is more snappy. It is more difficult to be able to get over your fear of shot anticipation. I think it's valuable to be able to go to a range with an instructor first, practice with guns that are appealing to you, and then from there, make an informed decision of what would be best to be able to use, if that makes sense. Can you create a tactical smicha program to create a whole team of tactical rabbis? Ooh, some groups of people are not going to be happy with that presentation. So I'm going to look up a name right now because I'm really bad with names and I'm much better with faces. So I'd rather make sure I'm giving you guys proper information. So someone just asked the question and I want to make sure I'm answering it correctly if I know who the person is. If I don't know who the person is, I'll tell you because I also don't want to lie. So someone asked about Kyle Morgan. I've seen him before, but I don't know enough about him to be able to give an informed decision. So I'd rather say that I don't know than make up an answer. I'd rather be honest. Do you still go to new training courses? Absolutely. I have a rule with myself that I try to go to one big course a year, which means, let me explain to you what a big course means for me personally. So again, since I am a religious Jew, a problem that comes up is that the ability to train only on Saturdays for a lot of companies. So that limits my ability. The second thing is going to be where they're located because not necessarily is there a good course that I would trust that's local that I'm able to attend. So let's say I'll use Tactical Response because I really like them, right? So for me to fly to Tennessee, there's many, many variables. There's flight costs, there is a car rental costs, there is hotel costs, and then something that people are not familiar with is, again, since kosher, which is the food that we eat, is very limited, I have to bring kosher food with me, which makes the trip much more complicated. And you're usually limited on the food you're able to have. So I have to pack as best as I can, like high protein, high calorie foods, because you're doing a lot of courses and a lot of running and shooting and whatever throughout the day. So you get really wiped out. So you want to make sure you have proper food and water and whatever it is. So water is obviously accessible, but the food aspect is usually very difficult for me. So I've gone to I think the most I've gone to was a 2 or 3 day course, I guess. But again, the availability for food makes it very, very difficult. And it's just something that not a lot of people think about for me. So I consider that a big course because it's a lot more prep and it's very, very expensive to be able to do it. Just besides for kosher food is also travel on all the other variables that go along with it, if that makes sense. So he was on the Sean Ryan show. I'm down to listen. I'm curious to learn. That sounds interesting. I'll check it out. How often do you suggest cleaning guns that stay in a safe most of the time? That's a very good question. If they truly just stay in a safe, okay, so the key word there sounds like most. So most is, I guess, relative to what most means. If it's most of the time, personally, what I would do, again, this is just my opinion, is every time I'd use it, I'd clean it and then put it back. So you know that you don't want to have a habit where, let's say you use it once a year. I'm going to make up an example. So let's say you use it once a year, you fire it, then you just put it back in your safe because you only used it once. To be able to keep track of when the last time was that you cleaned it, you don't want to be able to create that kind of unknown. So if it's going to be just like once a year thing, I would clean it every time just to make sure that I know that it's clean. But it's better more frequently than not, just because if it's going to be a used gun, then you want to just maintain it. Also, in regards to cleaning it, if it's something that stays in the safe, it's good to be able to take it apart and clean it and monitor it, because you don't want to be able to have the risk of rust being able to build up and destroying your firearm without you knowing. So taking it out every now and then just to examine it to make sure it's good is beneficial. I have a bolt action gun that I bring out every now and then, and I don't shoot it often because I don't have access to a long enough distance where it's valuable to bring it out. But I check it just because you don't want to make sure that there's anything going wrong that you would want to be aware about. That's a good question. So someone just asked, how do you overcome the indifference of individuals who think they already know or been doing this since before you were born and they have no value in training? Those are very hard people to train, just because why would you train them anything different? I'll tell you what I've done recently, or I started doing as I started training more, is there's a lot of these people who have that perspective. So I've had the guys who've come to that class who I knew were not good shooters, but they came with the perspective that they're already good. So what I started doing is I let them prove to themselves that they're not. So what that means is I use the Bear Solutions Cold Start drill, which I made a video about, but it's pretty much 2 squares with a circle. And the way the drill works is you have 5 rounds and 5 rounds, or 10 rounds total in the 2 outer circles, then a mandatory reload and 3 rounds to the center. If a person's able to accomplish that drill proficiently, that's pretty impressive. It's not hard, but it's just like you have a understanding of proper training, which I think is important. So before I give any instruction in the class, I set up that drill and just let everyone shoot it without me giving any info. So during that time, I'm able to see how people stand, what mistakes people are making before the class even begins. So I know more of what to address for that individual group of students. And most of those times, those people fail the test horribly. And then they're willing to open up their eyes to instruction. So there are guys who still thought it was fine, right? But generally speaking, when they realize that everyone else did well and they didn't, they're more open to the idea of being able to listen, which I thought was very valuable. I work at an Orthodox Torah school and really want to have a rabbi range day with the Rebbeim. So far, I think they think I'm joking, but I'm really serious. I say you're down. I would say go with the instructor because you would have someone else who's the authority there, which means they might not listen to you because they know you personally, but if you have someone else that says you can't do that or that's not safe, it would be taken more seriously. Someone just asked a question they wrote, is there any gun that became illegal that you think shouldn't have become illegal? All of them. There's a lot of guns that have become illegal and all of them should be illegal because why? Would you do a course by GBRS? I would. I'm intrigued by the company. I still don't know a lot about them, honestly. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are they the one that made the 7-foot optic mount? Is the same company? It's very good. It looks cool. It does, but it's very big. There's a company called, I think it's called HRT. They made a mount that attaches to the front of the Unity mount. So it's the same concept as the GBRS mount, that really high mount. So it has that ability to attach a PEC 15 in front. So what they did is they attached the Unity mount. So it's a 2.26, which is high, but not ridiculous. And you're able to mount their hardware to the front of it to have the same look as that setup, but it's overall shorter than the height of the GBRS mount. How do you get them to the class in the first place? So you're talking about the guys who think they're too into it to train. Unfortunately, that's very complicated. If you know them personally and there's still guys that are willing to go to the range, meaning if they think they're just not going to the range at all, then you're somewhat limited in what you're capable of being able to do because there's no proof of how you could determine it. If you're able to get to indoor range, meaning not a course, and just set up the drill and just see how they do, that might be interesting. But even then, it's still very, very difficult to be able to get those kind of people to the range. What training would you recommend to do if you don't have access to a flat range and already do dry fire? If you don't have access to any flat, do you have access to an indoor range? I'll answer that question. Let me know if you have access to an indoor range at all. Yeah, the GBRS mount is abnormally expensive. It's really expensive. I think it's like over $700. Maybe $1,000 is not that far off if that's what it is. It's just really expensive. Is there really a difference in training with hollow points as opposed to full metal jacket rounds? Absolutely. The full metal jacket rounds are fine. Not generally. There are a lot of hollow points that you might carry that are plus P, so they're much snappier. I would say, obviously, it's really, really, really expensive to train with hollow points. However, do it every now and then if you're able to. Like if you have to change out your ammo anyway, because it's a very different experience in recoil control. So Dennis, as a reply, he said, "What training would you recommend if you do not have access to a flat range and already do dry fire, and you don't have access to an indoor range?" So that's obviously, I feel really bad. That's horrible. I wonder, are you located in a country that doesn't have, you don't have access? Are you located in a country that doesn't give you access to firearms? What I would do personally if I were you is the next move up, if you really don't have that kind of access, would be get to you have access to no ranges. Wow. My next move would personally get into airsoft. I know that T-Rex Arms made a video a while back of a guy who was in the same position as you, but he took airsoft training very, very seriously. And when he was put to the test with real live fire, he did amazing. Like he did really well. So I would say train with airsoft setups, but be very, very, do not turn it into a game because then you lose all value to the system. Be very serious with it. And that's what I would do as my next level up if you're legally allowed to do that. How do you suggest to train if you don't have a lot of money? Very good question. That's a different question than access, because It's not really going to be, first of all, you could use airsoft. Like that is a very, very valuable thing to be able, if you do it seriously. Like people will mock it, but if you really take it as if it's a real thing, then I think it could be a very valuable thing as well. If you would, the other thing would be, there are certain drills that by themselves carry a lot of value. So for example, the dot torture drill, right, is a 50 round drill total, right? So what that does is that it's isolating fundamentals that by dealing, whoa, no way. I know that's my first donation. I feel, I appreciate it. It will be donated. It will be donated to an organization. Wow, I appreciate it. I'm very taken aback, honestly. Thank you, bro. Wow, that's very nice. I appreciate it, you guys. So the dot torture drill is isolating individual fundamentals to be able to give you the most value. So if you really isolate each individual fundamental, that makes a very big difference for being able to develop better skill sets. So one of my personal favorite drills that I try to do often is called the countdown drill. I made a video on it. So yeah, okay, yeah, but it's called the countdown drill. So what that drill is that it's forcing you to be able to individually think about each fundamental to make sure you're doing it properly. So what that means is that you start off, let's say, at 10 seconds, which is really exaggerated, 10 seconds. And you know that the only time you're allowed to fire is by 0. You're only allowed to fire by 0, which means you're forced to be able to use the full extent of 10 seconds that are given, that are allotted to you, to make sure each fundamental is correct. So it'll be something like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Like think about each individual fundamental. And since you know you have 10 seconds, you're not able to fire until the end of 10 seconds. Then by doing so, you know for sure that you're doing it correctly. So I think those kind of drills are very valuable. The same thing could be done in regards to dry fire practice. It is dry fire, but you could do that same drill at the range. So even if you're not using a lot of ammo, that's very valuable. Now it doesn't help a lot when it comes to moving and reloading and things like that. Like you could still do the motions correctly, right? But you won't necessarily be able to do that in full speed. So that's where airsoft could be valuable. Again, in regards to cost and in regards to just being able to have access to a range at all, I think that's important. Hey, what's up, Svi? Thank you for joining. Video coming out, Svi, very soon, by the way. Very cool guy. Let's see. What kind of coordination does your synagogue have with local police? Are they aware of the congregants maybe carrying concealed? And if so, how did that conversation go? So obviously this goes state to state in regards to legalities and requirements. But what that is that they absolutely should know, because I'll give you an example. Again, in my world, right? In regards to our congregation, we don't carry cell phones, right? Because it's the Sabbath and we're not allowed to do, we're not allowed to carry electronic. Oh my God, what's with you? You're doing a great job, and I think, oh my God, why are people donating? That's not a bad thing. I really appreciate it, but this is like the first time for me. This is very exciting. Oh my God, you guys are so nice. I appreciate it. I already made a decision. All the money that's being donated, I'm going to give to a organization that helps with mental health. So if you're donating, I appreciate you. Oh, you guys are so sweet. That's nice. You guys are very nice. And now I'm flustered and don't know what to say. Okay. You do? Okay. I apologize in advance about the etiquette of what to do when a donation comes in, because again, this is my first time. So I don't know if there's a certain thing I have to do, but what I'll say is this. I'll read out the comments because I think that's important. You're doing a great job, and I think you're helping empower the Jews by knowing it's okay to own and use firearms to protect themselves. Absolutely. I think, again, obviously it's not just for Jews. Everyone should have the right to protect themselves and do their best. And I'm glad I'm able to make that kind of difference. That was a fun reaction. I've been on the manufacturing side of firearms for the last 7 years. If you'll be at SHOT Show, we can meet up and introduce you to some people. Definitely reach out to me on Instagram, by the way. If there's something we're able to do together, that'd be amazing. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much, bro. That's very nice of you guys. So what was I saying in regards to, okay, so we don't carry cell phones on Sabbath. Oh my God, people. I'm sorry I keep interrupting, but you guys are rudely interrupting with very nice donations, and I really don't know what to do. I'm sorry. This is very exciting, and I really appreciate it. Wow, you guys are nice. Man, that's so nice of you guys. Okay, you guys are cool. Again, I apologize for the etiquette. I just don't know what I'm supposed to. Oh my God, I'm stressed out now because now. Hello. Keep up the good work. SWS. Thank you, bro. Berkey, thank you. AMZV, thank you, bro. Lior, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that right. Engelstein, radical centrist. And did somebody else do twice? Bro, come on, man. You guys are really nice, man. Thank you. Again, I'm giving it to charity. By the way, as a side note, this may or may not be good information for everyone. The honest goal of my company is make enough money where I could do what I'm doing for free. So what that means is if I'm making money from a different source, if I have sponsors or whatever who are making me successful, God willing, that will be the case. It would be for the purpose of being able to offer training for anyone who might not be able to afford it. Dude, Tyson, thank you so much, bro. Okay, I have to answer. I feel bad because people are, man, you guys are nice. I've always wondered because I've seen guys who had reactions before, and I was kind of wondering like what that would be like. And I get how I feel bad. I just don't know how to react. You guys are really cool. Thank you, bro. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm answering this question. We don't carry cell phones on us, which means that generally speaking, if you get into a self-defense shooting, it would be cool to call the police and tell them, my name is so-and-so, I'm wearing this and this, right? I just got into a self-defense shooting. Like, be aware that there's a concealed carry holder there. So because you don't want them to show up because it's happened. I know it's happened recently where a guy stopped an active shooting and then he ended up getting shot and killed by law enforcement because they thought he was the shooter. Now, I'm not saying every time you have that ability, but if law enforcement is showing up to the scene knowing that there could be concealed carry holders there, then that would make a very big difference to your survivability also because you don't want to get shot. So I'll be honest. What was the question? I want to make sure I answer that question. So what you do is if it's a legal state, they're obviously allowed to conceal carry or they're allowed to carry on that property. You'd inform that there are people who are there training. Now, some police officers, like some agencies just don't like it. They want only an armed guard outside. We want guards inside because the guards outside are valuable, but they're generally what's referred to in the category of a deterrent, but they're not a guarantee of being able to, being able to stop a threat because they could also be targeted first, if that makes sense. So being able to have a backup of people inside, I think is very, very important. For self-defense pistol, is a red dot necessary or rather not have a red dot since most situations are really close? That's also a very good question. That's going to be based on training because technically speaking, if it's close enough where you wouldn't be able to use your sights, then iron sights or red dot wouldn't matter. But red dots have been proven to be more effective for self-defense shootings or just speed and efficiency. Now, not everyone likes them. It just for different people will just work differently. There is a training curve. I'm not gonna say massive. There is a training curve between going from iron sights to going to a red dot. So just be aware of that because that's going to be something that you can't just put on a red dot and think you're good. There is a difference there. So I prefer having a red dot. Just train before you start carrying it, like for everyday carry. Make sure you're very, very comfortable with it. I've been using them for quite a while now, and I noticed for myself that if I don't do enough dry fire and repetitions to make sure I'm on it, I could see myself messing up. Right. So I think it's important that if you're going to do it, train proficiently, train often, so you make sure that you're actually able to stay good with it. I think red dots they're amazing. Cool. Okay. Let's see what other questions came in. Advice for students taking a firearms course. I've learned a lot from very good instructors, and I've learned a lot from very bad firearms instructors. What that means is that, first of all, it's like what I mentioned earlier. I feel that ego is a very important thing to put aside when it comes to anything. So it's humility goes a long way, and for me. With that being said, if you're going to be a student, assume everything you know is wrong and just try out different methods if they're going to do, unless it's obviously very unsafe, right? Like it's very clearly unsafe, then just try it out because there may be value in the thing that they're doing. And that the difference is that makes us the people who would say that we don't know it all. So when we answered a question earlier in regards to being able to say that, oh my God, people, you guys are donating, man. Jewish young bloods. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. So what we were saying earlier is you're worried about people like saying that I know it all and all that stuff, right? So being the person who's going to say that you're just willing to try it makes us more likely to be able to properly educate and do our best, because we're not accepting it. We're trying to learn as much as we can. I have thousands of rounds without a red dot. Before ammo was crazy and I had more time. I have very minimal time for a red dot. Probably not worth the switch. It is worth, if you're willing to commit, it's worth the switch. It just means that you could start off by doing so. Where's the change? The change is not going to be in regards to any fundamental except your draw and presentation. Maybe I'm wrong here, but from what I know is that you'll draw the gun, and when you point the gun, generally the dot is going to be above where your sights are. So you have to be able to practice that when the gun comes up, you're tilting down. A great example, by the way, I think for most people to have a very basic explanation, if you're a Glock guy and you pick up a SIG's grip angle is different. That for me personally, when I draw a Glock, it's straight. When I draw, because that's the gun I've trained on, when I draw a SIG, the front sight is slightly down because the grip angle is different. And that's what a red dot does. So when you have a red dot, the dot's going to be higher. So you just need to practice in dry fire, the draw and presentation, so you see the red dot every single time. If you do that a lot of repetitions and stay consistent, you might be able to get away with it and still have value there. Do you like using a drop leg mid-ride holster, or do they get in the way of your tzitzit and stuff like that? I use a mid-ride holster. So it's not a drop leg, but it's mid-ride. Generally, if I'm going to the range or if I'm carrying a firearm, I will tuck my tzitzis in. If I'm carrying in the 3 o'clock position, if I'm carrying appendix, I don't need to. The reason why that's very important, I'm not a bad Jew, but the reason why I tuck in my tzitzis if I'm carrying a 3 o'clock position is that of the more dangerous times of dealing with firearms is reholstering your gun, because especially under stress, people might forget that it is valuable to look into your holster to make sure there's no obstructions. Things like tzitzis or any strings or material, as you're reholstering, I've seen it happen in classes and I've stopped it many times. But I'm saying this purely out of experience, is that people reholster the gun very aggressively and they don't realize that their shirt is starting to get locked up into their trigger and it could discharge their gun. So things like tzitzis, shirts, anything like that, you have to be very careful that you don't end up having an issue there. I think it's very important. Do you carry any medical? I try my best at the minimum to carry a tourniquet at the minimum. It is very valuable to have a proper medical kit on you. In all honesty, it's something that's very difficult for me to be able to do because I already carry a lot of gear. I'm not saying it's not valuable. It's very important to have medical equipment somewhere nearby. At the minimum, a tourniquet. There is a tourniquet that I just recently purchased that's coming in that I'm very excited to review for you guys. If it works, I think it's a game changer. I know that they're very hard to get right now at the moment, but I think they're really cool. But yeah, so it's ideal to carry medical. If you could carry medical, carry medical. Oh, thank you, Mendel. Mendel Muller donated $1. I appreciate you, bro. For the record, because you're a friend, I know him personally, guys, I was going to ignore you the entire way, even with your donation, because that's what good friends do. So I use a outside the waistband holster generally when I'm giving like classes, just because it's out of convenience, but I'm generally going to be using an appendix style holster for everyday carry use. So I wouldn't need to tuck in any material. You still need to be careful with reholstering, but yeah. If that makes sense. Okay. We have more questions coming in. Let's see here. So this is a good question also. It says, to people who mock your commitment to training and protecting, is there a way to convey to them that they are in fact the liabilities and that you're the asset who actually brings something to the table? It's a very good question. It's also a very difficult question to answer because there are unfortunately people, here's the best example. In my opinion, there's no one who could say that preppers were wrong during the height of COVID. Because during the height of COVID, let's say the toilet paper or just water or food or not being able to leave your house for long stretches of time, right? There are people who had, let's say, 3 months of food like stored up and just backup equipment and supplies, generators, gas, like all the stuff that were hard for everyone to get. That was the only time that the world could look to these kind of people and realize maybe they were onto something. And unfortunately, until those kind of things happen, you can't really say like, haha, I told you so. So it's hard to be able to say when you're able to do that or just be able to prove it. Because unfortunately, it's ideal to you for you to do your best and be the best that you can be and hope that you never have to be that. Like you may, unfortunately, in a positive way, be mocked for the rest of your life being the prepared guy. If that means never needing to get into a gunfight, I think we would all agree is the valuable thing, right? But it's hard to do. How do you suggest that you get training for medical? So there are companies like Recon Medical that I believe gives classes. There's basic classes that you're able to get almost at every fire station. That's like stop the bleed courses. Those are very popular. Definitely recommend it. Tactical Response has a very intense tactical emergency medicine course that I think is really cool. So those are something to be aware of. There are places that you could get really cool medical training. Do you have a level 2 or level 3 holster? Do you find that there are any disadvantages? I have a level 3 retention holster. They're awesome. They're really, really cool, but you really need to train. If you check up, I think it's called the Holster Dance on YouTube, right? Where there's very scary videos. It might sound fun. It's scary videos of law enforcement-based shootings that officers either ended up getting very close to getting killed or have gotten killed because if you don't train a lot with a level 3 retention holster, it's very common that you'll do something called the holster dance, which means that you haven't unlocked the main component of the holster. So you start shaking it aggressively to try to pull it out, but it's still locked until you unlock it. And it gets scary because under stress, it makes it worse and worse and worse. So that's the disadvantage if you don't train. But it's also good if you're a law enforcement officer or a security officer to have that so you don't get your gun taken away from you either. So, yeah. What's a good first concealed carry gun to clean and maintain? What's a first good... There's a lot of amazing options out there. Something like the Glock 48, the Glock 43X, the SIG P365, the Springfield Hellcat, I believe, is also a great option. There's a lot of really great options out there. I wouldn't say one is necessarily better than the other. It's a lot of times going to be based off preference. I personally like Glocks because of the availability of parts, components, holster compatibility, and all that stuff. But you should be good regardless of which one you go with. What is your personal favorite firearm? Just as in curiosity. You can't ask a gun guy that question. There's many options. I like the AR-15. It's pretty solid. It's just really modified. That's the thing, because you'll say AR-15, but like they'll say like this one. It's like no, it's like every other part is different though because I chose. Here for the Rabbi stuff. Feel free to ask a question if you have anything particular. Who are the main YouTubers you follow? Ooh, good question. I really like Sage Dynamics. This might be a controversial point. I used to watch a lot of Demolition Ranch because it was really interesting. I just feel like maybe I just got older where it's sometimes interesting, but it's more strictly entertainment and no longer valuable education. Maybe that's the case. Then there's Hop, I think makes interesting videos. TFB TV. Let's see, who else do I watch that's interesting? The Military Arms channel, I think is a really cool channel as well. I'm totally missing people that I watch probably a lot more of. There's a lot of really great guys on YouTube. My EDC is a Jericho, and level 3 retention holster seems to be a slim package. Isn't the Jericho like a full metal? Like that's, if I'm wrong, isn't that a really heavy gun? Unless Jericho makes multiple styles of, is that a brand? I could be very, very wrong here. When I think about a Jericho, I think about a full metal framed firearm that are pretty heavy. I found a holster from Orpaz Defense that has a thumb release. I'm waiting for it to come in. The release faces forwards the waistband, so it's really easy to tap when drawing. Generally, when I'm using an outside the waistband holster that's going to be level 3, I like Safariland. Like they just have a reputation and they're really great. Yeah. By the way, I don't know if I'm limited to a 1 hour segment. I don't know how YouTube works. I remember saying something along those lines. So just be aware that I won't stop it at an hour, but if it does cut out, then know that that's the reason. Okay, let's see here. 1 second. I just want to go back to the questions. Orpaz Defense. Unless that's Israeli, it's Orpaz or something like that, and I'm pronouncing it wrong. Oh, it's IWI. Yeah, so it's Orpaz. Are Works holsters good? I'm honestly not familiar with the brand. There are a lot of holster companies out there, like a few that are that reign supreme, but there's a lot of companies out there, so I don't know if I'm familiar with their brand. I just bought a Jericho for myself. It's 2.2 pounds all steel. Man, the recoil control must be nice with all that weight. But man, do you carry a multi-tool as a part of your EDC? I don't. I do carry a knife and like things like that, but I don't carry a dedicated multi-tool. Nothing fancy would be very upset at me, but I carry too much stuff already. I have a full steel 3.8-inch barrel. It is not bad, but it makes the polyframe. It's not bad, but they make polymer frame versions. Yeah. Yes to the P365. I think they're great. They're great guns. By the way, greatly appreciate all the interaction on the chat. It makes this a lot more interesting for me. You guys are really nice. Someone asked a question that might get people upset. What's a good holster brand to use with an Olight? Olight. So Streamlight does have strobe features as well on their firearms. So I know people get upset when I mention this, but I personally wouldn't rely on Olight as a brand for defensive use. It just worries me. Their reliability seems to be not on par as other brands. So I would be cautious when it comes to being able to do that. Would you start a podcast? Sure, but I'm not looking for a pity comment here. I just don't feel like I'm that interesting for people to listen to. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But would you want to listen to me for hours at a time? I mean, you're doing it now, but this is like every now and then. Vetter, by the way, Vetter was of the first holster companies I was using, and I thought they were perfectly fine. I thought they were good. Jericho's are smooth shooters and a nice club if things get too close. That is also true. I hope even if they're close, that you're only doing it because you're out of ammo, not because just because they're close. YouTube blacklisted me. What does that mean? This is currently the most generous firearms podcast available because everyone's donating to help mental health. What does blacklisted mean? Oh man, what does that mean? I thought I was being nice. So what Streamlight would you recommend for concealed carry of Glock? So the question is which Glock you have. If it's going to be, let's say, any double stack options like the Glock 19, 17, things like that. I like the Streamlight TLR1 HL, the 1000 lumen version. The one that I'm currently using on my 48, just because there aren't many options out there, is the Streamlight TLR7 sub, I believe. Those are the ones I currently use. I really wish there was a higher lumen and candela output for the Glock 48 guns, but currently I don't see that they're available. What's your take on bullpup shotguns? I haven't shot one personally, but I feel like the recoil would be stout. Am I wrong? I don't have experience with them to know. I just feel like, would they be? No, they wouldn't be worse than a full wooden stock, like grandfather shotgun that's like a 2 gauge, huh? Thank you, Robert, for a fantastic introduction to firearms fundamentals yesterday. Can you put a red dot on a Glock BB gun? There are some Glock BB guns that, first of all, thank you for joining. I appreciate you. There are some dedicated airsoft guns that have the ability to mount a red dot. So that is an option, yes. You just have to make sure you get the right version. It could be less recoil. I don't know. We're talking about the bullpup shotgun. I personally just don't have experience to know. Just because it seems like since the trigger mechanism is here, but everything's firing over here, it seems like it would be closer. I don't know. So I missed. You're responding. Okay, I'm still learning the stuff. Okay. Now that you're more of a public figure, have you experienced hate or anti-Semitism? Oh my God, have I? Like, it's crazy because I don't block people who hate me. Meaning, I don't block people who disagree with me on YouTube. I do block people that are either making violent threats or saying things that are like they're definitely not adding anything to the conversation. They're just really, really horrible people. I blocked a lot of people just because it's not really about me. Like, I get a lot of it, but I don't feel like it's valuable to be able to have on a platform where people are just seeing that kind of, there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate. It doesn't really affect me. Like what's crazy is that it's become so public, which is such a crazy thing to think about, that people are so, and by the way, I'm not going to say just about, like, obviously because of some specific political figures that don't deserve a lot of recognition. Jews have obviously had a recent hit in that level, but if you like scroll through Instagram, like any random like video that's just trying to be like wholesome, right? You're gonna see the amount of, because people are just, we've come to a world where, since people are able to hide behind a screen, and younger generation of people, I'm not old, but like guys younger than me, right, are not realizing how everyone's able to see what you're able to do, and they realize that there's no consequence to their actions because they're just saying things without any supervision. It's easier for people to just hate on other people, and I feel like in every community, in every group, in every organization, everything, there's those kind of people that are just really spewing hate. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. Let me see if there's more questions. If you have more questions, feel free. I'll stick around a little bit longer because I think we're already past our hour mark. Appreciate you guys sticking around. It's really nice of you guys. Hope I'm being valuable at all. Let's see here. Someone asked a question about firearm storage with children. It's probably of the most common question. New shooters, especially like parents, their biggest fear is going to be about making sure their kid doesn't get access to a gun, which is 100% valid. Like, we all agree that would be a big problem. The question is how you're able to deal with that. So a guy who was on the chat earlier, I don't think he's still on. His name is Tzvi. I did a podcast, or not a podcast, whatever. Podcast, we did a podcast. Video conversation about talking about firearm safety with children. When I get that, I'm going to post it so you guys would be able to watch it. But pretty much, it all usually comes down to properly securing the firearm in a way that you make sure the kids don't have access to it. Obviously, we want to make sure our kids are safe. But usually, the fear is not going to be about the gun. It's about the worry of their kids getting accidental access. But they don't realize how many options there are now available today to keep your kids safe in safes that are available. So there are many options out there. It's just you need to be aware that they exist to then use them, right? Last night at our school, we received our first anti-Semitic vandalism. Scary thing, it was in a fenced-off play area with 10-foot fencing. Unless you're implying that it was an inside job or someone just got over it. People are really committed to be able to do those kind of things. I almost feel that people who like vandalize are just cowards because like you're not willing to go out there and say, but I'm going to spray a sign to tell you how scary I am. But like, no one knows it was me. What's the poster in the back? So, see, there's such a lag, so I don't know where my head's supposed to be able to not block the back. So I'll just do this and hope for the best. So the top one on, I guess, your left, everything's backwards, is my rabbinical ordination certificate. The longer one, that's the long one, is going to be the first time I was ever on the news. That's the front page of the LA Times, and I'm on the front page, which was really cool. The bottom of that was from Personal Defense. I think it was called Personal Defense World magazine. It was the first magazine, tactical magazine publication I was a part of, which I thought was really, really cool. And then this big thing over here was from a company that saw me in the Personal Defense World magazine and sent out like kind of like a placard, expanded version of the entire article, which I think is really nice of them. So that's really cool. I also have one behind the camera, which you can't see right now, which was the time I was on the New York Post, which was really cool. I feel like I just missed a bunch of questions. I hope I didn't. Let me see if I could go back 1 second. What is your day job? Oh, should I reveal information? Because I thought you said, when is your birthday? The reason why I thought about that is because my birthday is tonight. I appreciate you guys all spending your time here with me on my birthday. By the way, the Jewish world, we go according to the lunar calendar, not the solar calendar. So my secular / birth English birthday is January 6th. So the night before, even though it's my secular birthday. And then my Hebrew birthday, for those who would know the difference, is Chav Ches Teves, which is coming up. So I appreciate you guys. So what is my day job? I currently work 4 jobs to be able to keep things going because I like working. So the one that's probably the most, I was going to do a dedicated video on them also. I joined a company that I'm very, I only ever like working for companies that I believe in because I want to be able to promote what they're trying to do in a way that I believe, right? So there's a company called Citywide Security. They're based out of Brooklyn. They have a surveillance company, which maybe you guys are able to help connect me. Hook a guy up if you have connections here, where what they do is they actively monitor construction sites or any kind of sites in general that could have risk of theft or break-in or things like that. So for example, any construction site that's in the middle being built, they leave like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment on their sites. So they have cameras there that are being actively monitored the entire time to watch for potential risks of theft. And they're connected to law enforcement, as well as also having their own response security team that will respond to the scenes before law enforcement can to be able to deal with theft. They also have a something called a virtual guard. So if you're like a hospital or something like that, that has an access gate, instead of hiring someone to be able to check identification, you put in a gate and they'll have a guard check ID for you remotely. So they can remotely access your gates for you. It's a very cool system. And I think it's really interesting. And their system works and I believe in it, which is why I'm happy to work with them. I appreciate your birthday wishes. Thank you guys. When can we go to the range again? Please reach out. We'll see what we can do. I'm not going to get into it now. I just had really some major politics at the range recently. Not now. I'm not getting into it now, but depending on what happens next week, it will determine if I'm going to make a video on what happened. Coming from a fellow Jew, what is your favorite Jewish holiday apart from Hanukkah? I personally like Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is a beautiful holiday. It's the Jewish New Year. So that's a very beautiful holiday. I do like Hanukkah. I do like Purim. Purim is a fun holiday as well. I do like Pesach, Passover. That's also a fun holiday. For some people, it's very difficult. I enjoy it. I think it's a very nice holiday. Can you recommend a Streamlight with a strobe for the Glock 19? Yes, the Streamlight TLR1, the Streamlight TLR1HL. It has a double tap feature that will activate strobe. That's my personal recommendation for a light. Just waiting to see if there's any other questions come in. I'll wait an additional 30 seconds. If you guys have other questions to key in, let me know. Otherwise, just for now, I have other life responsibilities I probably need to be doing right now. But this was very nice. I really appreciate you guys joining. I definitely want to do this again. I thought it was very valuable, fun conversation. Also, currently where we're holding, again, everything's 100% of it's being donated, is $83.96 from chat revenue. You guys are amazing. That's really, really crazy. I'm going to be giving it to an organization called, what's the organization called? It's called the Nest Center. It's based in California. They deal with mental health, people who deal with mental health, which I think is a big part of the risks of dealing with the firearms community. Of the highest death rates we have in the United States when it comes to firearms is going to be because of suicide. So being able to do our part to be able to help those people I think is very important. So that's where the money is going to be going to. Yeah, you guys, whoever donated, you guys are really amazing, and I'm giving it 100% away. Hi, I'm already subscribed to you from when you still had less than 700 subscribers. Looking back, by the way, obviously, the hope is to grow and make the production level better. So you tell me, how's production level from then till now? Because looking back, it doesn't seem as exciting. The production level seemed really bad. I appreciate you sticking around. I hope it was valuable. What would you recommend for recoil control training with no access to live fire? The best you're probably able to get is airsoft. It's not the greatest, but volume-wise and cost-wise, I feel like is probably what you're able to do. So there are airsoft guns that do have recoil. It's very minute. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as actual gunfire, but it's probably as close as you're able to get for something that won't be as loud as gunfire. Obviously, that's a problem. Like technically, you could use blanks. Is it illegal? It probably is, but I would wonder why it would be illegal to discharge a blank in your home, because it's still being fired from a firearm. So that would be discharging a firearm, even though it's non-lethal. It's not non-lethal. It's just whatever. But I wonder if it's totally illegal. I just wonder if there would be a loophole about it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm not saying. I'm just thinking out loud. Okay. So again, like greatly appreciate all you guys joining. I'm gonna probably end this for now. I'm gonna upload it later. I hope the video quality, the audio is better. Like I upgraded. I promise you this. I upgraded my internet because I wanted to do better lives. So I'm now paying more just to make sure that I have better like speeds for my internet. I upgraded my camera system. I upgraded the microphone system, all because I wanted to make sure this was a little bit better for you guys. So I really hope it came out. On what platforms do you have live Q&A? These ones I definitely enjoy. Also, maybe on Instagram. Those are going to be the two most common places to be able to do it for me. I enjoy YouTube. It seems like it's a lot more fun. It really is a different type of community than on Instagram. It's like two different types of like groups of people. But yeah, again, like so far again, currently what we're holding is $83.96. That's going to be all donated to the Nest Center for Mental Health. Again, I appreciate all you guys joining. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, because if I do a poll there or something like ask questions, if you want to be part of like just early on questions to be able to ask, I'll usually post it there. I tried it on YouTube a few times. It just didn't seem like it got the same level of feedback than from Instagram. I think like, just because I do feel like people want to be held more anonymous, which is totally valid. But yeah, again, thank you guys very much. Really appreciate you joining. Hope you guys have a great night. Thank you. I don't know how to end these things. Like, what am I supposed to say? I'm just going to go like, and then I'm going to bounce. I'm just going to, Just